which will be circulated from time to time in the chat box so that we can issue e-certificates to all. It's a humble request. Now, I would like to request our Honorable Principal, Dr. Ramakanta Patro sir, for the welcome address of the webinar. I would like to introduce Dr. Ramakanta Patro sir. He completed his graduation and post-graduation from Kolkata University, LLB in Personal Management, PhD in Human Resource Accounting from Bhopal University. He has more than 12 years of experience in different industries and has a very rich experience of 26 years in academics, including the very prestigious 14 years at National Institute of Technology, Bhopal. The Government of India has recognized his best work and had received several grants and ad for its publication. So I now request Principal Sir for the welcome address. Principal Sir. Okay, Rana sir, could you please check with Principal Sir's network? Rana sir, are you there?
Yeah, I am here. There is some network issue in his part.
Okay, all right. Okay, I request all the participants to kindly mute the audio. I request all the participants to kindly mute the audio. All right, thank you so much. So until we wait for Principal Sir's welcome address, I would like to announce. All right, sir. All right, sir. Over to you, sir.
Yeah.
I welcome you for the welcome address.
Yeah. Sorry, due to network problem, I could not join. Very good evening to all of you from my personal behalf and on behalf of Bharatiya Vidyavan Institute of Management Science, Kolkata. I may take the privilege to welcome you all to this webinar and respected guests, speakers, and the faculty, students. I welcome you all to this webinar. So the theme of the webinar today is restoring ecosystem and raising awareness. This is really a burning issue today. As we all know that the world is today facing a very severe crisis due to the environment. And on 5th June, every year, the nature empaths around the globe and celebrate the World Environment Day. Encourage awareness and observe the protection since 1974. World Environment Day has been celebrated engaging government, business houses, and citizens in an effort to address pressing environmental issues with participation from our 143 countries annually. According to the World Environment Day website, every 3 seconds, the world loses about forest to cover a football pitch. And over the last century, humans have destroyed half of the wetlands. As much as 50% of coral reefs have already been lost, and up to 90% of coral reefs could be lost by 2050. Even if global warming is limited to an increase of 1.5 degrees Celsius. This is really very alarming, and the theme of today's webinar means to prevent, halt, and reverse this damage, to go from exploiting nature to healing it. That is the main focus of the theme of this international webinar. The theme also focuses that healthy ecosystems can enhance people's livelihoods, counteract climate change, and stop the collapse of biodiversity. According to a report of market research firm Unearth Insight, the carbon emission by the Indian IT outsourcing industry has dropped by 85% to around 0.3 million tons due to the reduced traveling, work from home, and online hiring process during the COVID-19 lockdown period. In a study in the journal Nature, it is found that greenhouse gas emissions from food systems would be reduced by half if the world turned to a mainly plant-based diet system. Researchers at the University of Oxford also found that every person who goes vegetarian lowers their carbon footprint by up to 73% and saves nearly 200 animals per year. Even though the lockdowns helped the environment to breathe better air quality for a while, but according to the Central Pollution Control Board of India, it has produced 45,308 tons of biomedical waste between June 2020 to May 10, 2021. An average daily generation of 132 tons of COVID-19 related waste. This is in addition to 615 biomedical waste a day being produced before COVID-19, amounting to a 17% increase in biomedical waste generation solely because of the prevailing pandemic situation. Now, we have to be very careful, but quite unfortunately, our generation settled with the responsibility of curing the environmental ills of times past. We must restore our ecosystems in order to secure our future. Restoration begins with me and you. It begins with us spreading the word, and the compilation of little acts all around the world is all we need to show that the earth remains salvageable. And now, through this webinar, we would like to create an awareness, raise the awareness program. We all are responsible to maintain the ecosystem, to save our Mother Earth. And through this webinar, let us take a pledge today that we would not be the generation that future ones will regret. We would not be the generation who could do something but never did. We would not be the generation who was too late. It is really not too late. Let us gather our hands together to save our earth. We will be the generation who did all they could and succeed. The world needs you. Mother Earth calls you. It starts with awareness. it continues with acts of sustainability, of restoration, of preservation, of conservation. It ends in a beautiful world for us all. So this is the basic theme of today's webinar. Once again, I may take the privilege to welcome you. Before I wind up, let me take the opportunity to speak a few words about Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan Institute of Management Science. Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan Institute of Management Science, Kolkata, started in 2000. But as you all know, Bhavan is a big platform. Our headquarters is in Mumbai, and it started in 1938 under the hands of our father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi. And our K. Munshi Kulpati Munshi, he took the initiative to spread the education, the culture among the people of the country. And as of now, in Pan India, we have almost 112 units, including school and colleges. And abroad also, we have few centers. Accordingly, Kolkata Bhavans, we have beautiful infrastructure, and all the classrooms are air conditioned, and the classrooms are fitted with the gadgets. And we have 2 programs, 2 years MBA program approved by AICT and affiliated to MACAUT, and 3 years BBA program affiliated to MACAUT. And as you know, before taking admission, before going for searching an institute, few indicators you must verify. As of now, as per my view, there are few indicators like faculty, who is going to teach, infrastructure, and placement. These are the very important indicators for deciding any institute. And fortunately, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan is having all this. Our faculty is very strong. They are all having their industrial background as well as academic background very strong. And out of existing 15 faculty members, 12 faculty members are having PhD, and we have a very strong industry institute linkage cell. And this linkage cell, we used to provide the faculty mentor, corporate mentor, and the alumni mentor. Every Saturday, we have blocked for this corporate interaction program. On this day, we used to invite the corporate to interact with the students, give them the tips, and how the students can be made the corporate ready. So this is our basic objective. And though we are affiliated to the MACAUT, but we have designed our own delivery plan. And this delivery plan is nothing but application-oriented delivery plan. Okay, our faculty members are very much experienced, very expertise in this delivery pattern. And we have another system of evaluating the students. Each and every student is being evaluated at 3 levels: faculty mentor level, corporate mentor level, and alumni mentor level. And after evaluation at these 3 levels, we prepare the individual student scorecard. And this scorecard helps us to know where the student stands today and where he needs to go. So these are the basic facility available. And in addition to that, we used to send each student in every semester for an industrial visit. We provide the students live projects. We have a tie-up with national and international NGOs, and we want to be the champion in the management education, not in Eastern region only, Pan India. We are trying our best. So once again, I may take the privilege to welcome you all to this international webinar today. So thank you once again. Enjoy the program. Madam, over to you. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Principal Sir, for the welcome address. I once again request all the participants to kindly keep yourself muted. I request the technical support to share the PPT as well. Rana sir from the technical support. Yes, thank you so much. Now I would like to introduce our distinguished dignitaries of today's program. I have the honor to welcome and introduce our organizer, Mr. CMA Manas Kumar Thakur. Mr. Manas Kumar Thakur is a very distinguished professional with extensive application of cost and management accounting methods and techniques for long-term strategic planning, improving sustainable growth and development of the organization, including its enhancement of operating efficiency and capacity building. He has a very rich experience of 29 years of cost analytics. He is a former president of the Institute of Cost Accounts of India for the year 2016-2017 and has held several positions in the Institute of Cost Accountants of India. He has membership in various international accounting and regulatory bodies, namely Board of South Asian Federation of Accountants, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, the ICWAI Management Accounting Research Foundation. He has published several articles in different national as well as international journals, including different accounting and professional institutions. He is a fellow member of the Institute of Cost Accountants of India, life member of the International Institute of Certified Professional Accountants, Switzerland. He has qualified the independent director. He has qualified as the independent director from the Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs, and he is also a board member of WBREDA. It's an honor to have you, sir. Now, I would like to take the privilege to introduce the chief guest, Dr. Sujata Bakshi Banerjee, who has a broad expertise and outstanding contribution to our society as well as to the education. She is the Vice Chancellor of Murshidabad University. She graduated from Baharampur Girls College, postgraduate in Bengali from Kolkata University, and PhD from Viswa Bharati. She began her career in Krishnanath College as a professor, later worked in Bolpur College and Lal Gaila College. Her research area is in translation works of Rabindranath Tagore, and postdoctoral research is in post-independence migration-related literature, etc. She is a recipient of many international and national awards, namely the National Literature Association Award 2015, Dhaka, and numerous other awards. She has made outstanding contribution towards society, towards teaching, evaluation, and modernization of Krishnanath College, and later to the upgradation to the Murshidabad University. She had also served as AITC and ABPC district leader. It's an honor to have you, ma'am. Now, I would like to introduce our eminent speakers of great expertise and experiences. Our first speaker is Dr. Celia Shehnaz, who has a broad expertise in engineering and technology. She is a professor at Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology. She has chaired the IEEE SPS Women in Signal Processing. She is the founder of SPS, RAS, IAS, and SSIT Bangladesh chapters. She is the founder and advisor of WIEAG IEEE Bangladesh section and is an editorial board member of IET Signal Processing 2018-21. It's an honor to have you, ma'am, to today's webinar. I would like to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Swati Nandi Chakraborty. Dr. Swati is a very eminent environmental scientist. She is passionate about the environment and has been contributing towards the growth of environment. She is a member of the different environment committees of Chamber of Commerce. Her research area and area of specialization are environmental ecotoxicology, biotic and abiotic stress, bioabsorption, bioremediation, carbon footprint, and also waste management and life cycle assessment. Her activities for the last few years have been towards merging the theory and practice of sustainable development with special reference to assessment of health risk of East Kolkata wetland and e-waste management. She has also published several peer-reviewed research papers, and her research experience has in renowned institutes like All India Institute of Public Health and Hygiene, IIT Kharagpur, the Energy and Resource Institute, Delhi, etc. She is the chief editor of International Journal of Bioinformatics and Biological Sciences. She has received many awards, including Women Scientist Award and Sarbajaya Award 2021. She has successfully completed several national and international projects. She is elected as Fellow of Bioacademy of Sciences. She has contributed extensively to the development of environment biotech curriculum and also in the area of intellectual property rights and biodiversity. It's an honor to have Dr. Swati ma'am, who has considerable expertise on environment. We welcome you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Professor Dr. Mohan Lal Kolhei, who has immense knowledge in the electrical energy engineering. Dr. Kolhei is currently associated with the University of Agder, Norway. May I request the participants to kindly mute yourself? Please, it's a humble request, participants, to kindly mute yourself for the smooth flow of today's webinar. All right. Let me continue with the introduction of Professor Dr. Mohan Kolhei. Dr. Kolhei is working with the University of Agder, Norway, as professor in electrical energy engineering with focus on smart grid and renewable energy. He has also received the offer of Half-Lung Professorship in Smart Grid from the Norwegian University of Science and Technology. He has more than 3 decades academic experience at international level on electrical and renewable energy systems, and has previously held academic positions at the world's prestigious universities, namely University College London, UK, University of Dundee, UK, University of Jyväskylä, Finland, and Hydrogen Research Institute, Canada. He was a member of the government of South Africa's Renewable Energy Board and worked on developing renewable energy policies.
One of the worst countries for
His academic work ranges from the smart grid, grid integration of renewable energy systems, etc. He has been successful in winning research funding from various prestigious research councils for his work on sustainable systems. We are honored to have you, sir. Now, I would like to introduce the moderator of the webinar, who has a very rich experience and very broad expertise of more than 45 years in many prestigious institutions, Dr. Ratan Sharma. Currently, Dr. Ratan Sharma is associated with the Vivekananda Institute of Professional Studies, Delhi. He is immediate past president of the Association of Indian Management Schools, a body of approximately 800 business schools in India. Dr. Sharma is an alumnus of the prestigious Sri Ram College of Commerce, Delhi University. He has worked with various elite institutions like IIM Lucknow, MDI Gurgaon, SP Jain Institute of Management and Research, Mumbai, where he served as director of Center of Family Managed Business. He also worked in Administrative Staff College of India, Hyderabad, Bulmin, where he was the founder director and also worked as director of a business school in the private sector. Dr. Sharma was an EFMD fellow in Manchester Business School, UK. He has done PhD from Delhi School of Economics. He wrote many articles and research papers and bagged the best article of the year 1987 by ICAI. He has been examining a number of PhD theses for IIT Delhi, Jamia Millia, Delhi University, etc. He is also a member of many professional bodies and helps various institutions to provide quality and relevant management education. He was a visitor nominee in the Department of Commerce at Aligarh Muslim University, Faculty of Management Studies of Delhi University, and a member of Committee of Erudite of Credit Appraisal and Evaluation of PICUP. He is a consultant to the various organizations and a professional trainer. His area of interest includes CSR, corporate governance, sustainability, and strategy. Presently, Dr. Sharma is engaged in studying CSR in various corporate sectors. We are really honored to have Dr. Ratan Sharma as our moderator today, and we are looking forward to a very exciting session. So before I proceed to request the moderator, Professor Dr. Ratan Sharma, to moderate today's session, I would like to make an announcement that unfortunately our first speaker, Dr. Celia Shehnaz, she would not be able to present today as she is unwell, and I really regret and apologize for the inconvenience caused. So now I would like to request our moderator, Dr. Ratan Sharma, to moderate today's session. Over to you, sir. Sir, you're muted.
So I got muted.
Yes, sir. Now I can hear.
Thank you very much. Is that clear? Voice is okay?
Yes, sir. Perfect, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor Priyadarshini, in fact, for having this elaborate sort of a profile you read. I'm extremely happy and privileged to really moderating this session, which is a very important session on international webinar, which is to restoring the ecosystem and really spreading the awareness among the people. And I'm thankful to Professor Patra, in fact, for giving me this opportunity. I feel little, shaky because moderating is being done with people, those who are got very outstanding, their career, experts in their own field, in their own rights. So, but still, I will try to do my best and try really to involve also the audience and also try to have the questions relating to it. A few things I would like to mention to begin with, as Professor Patra mentioned, I think this part is very crucial that environment issues are very burning issues today. And I don't think we can be really closing our eyes on those issues. And as Professor Priyadarshini mentioned, that sustainable development is a key issue. Now, the whole this webinar, in fact, was around that, how really we can try to come out with a sustainable development and also really try to have a balanced ecosystem at the global level. We know it, I'm sure some of these, I think I'm told there are students also participating in it. Most of you are aware, those who are probably doing work in this area. Ecosystem refers to where living and non-living entities or organisms, they are working together or interacting together. And it includes everything at all, everything, in fact, in the world, the globe level. Now, as a human race, we are trying to interact with them and trying really to come out with or do something about the livelihood. And we use those resources which are natural and also in the ecosystem. Now, how really to do that? And that is an issue by which we can have a sustainable development. And what we will be doing after we listening to our experts, because they are the people, those who have an authority really to talk about those issues, we will also to see as to what is the role individuals have got in the society, really having that awareness, role of the corporates, because we are a business school, engineering schools, So how really, and the universities, how, those, the corporates should also be really focusing on. As a community also, what should be our role, and also at the nation level, what is that we should be doing. In any way, in a United Nations, they are doing a different way, and I think we need to be a party to it. And or finally, we will also look into the role of education per se, because we belong to the education field, and that role we should be having, what sort of a role we should have it. So whole thing will be probably from that point of view. I'm extremely happy really to say that we got our chief guest to begin with, Dr. Sujata Bakshi Bandyopadhyay, who is a Vice Chancellor here in the West Bengal with the Murshidabad University. And she comes with a background of the literature and the language. I think I will be requesting her that let her begin as to how, she looks at the whole ecosystem from the literature point of view, how she would like to look at it. So, ma'am, may I request you to kindly share your views on this very important, vital aspects. Your views, ma'am, Dr. Sujata Bakshi Banerjee. Ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Very much.
A very good evening, everybody. I express my gratitude for selecting me as chief guest of such an international webinar of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan Institute of Management Science, Kolkata, and Kolkata Cost and Management Society in association with Ramnagar College, Karshiang College, Dr. Mohan College, and also our Murshidabad University. I convey my sincere thanks to organizer Dr. Ram Mohan Patro, CMA Manush Kumar Thakur, Dr. Ratan Sharma, and also respected guest co-speaker Dr. Mohan Lal Kolhei, Head of Energy System Group, Norway, and Dr. Sela Sahanaj from Bangladesh, and Dr. Shati Nandi Chakraborty, environment scientist. Name of the webinar is the ecosystem and raising awareness in the in this pandemic situation. All we are bound to stuck in our four walls of our room, and in the suffocating condition of the world, we would realize the importance of our mother nature. Need of ecological balance in nature is very important issue in modern society. But from ancient age, to today, our ancestors suggested us in our sacred books, literature, folk tales, rituals to protect green environment. Today my topic is eco-critical views of Indian literature. To speak something related to ecosystem and eco-criticism, let us define what is ecosystem and what is the eco-criticism, and then I like to define how the eco-critical views of reflected in our Indian literature. Ecosystem is a geographic area where plants, animals, and other organisms, as well as weather and land, works together to form a bubble of life. Eco-criticism is relatively newly developed literary theory which excludes and relationships between literature and nature. It defines the roots of the problem and ecological crisis in a relationship of the society with nature. In the ecosystem, every factor depends on every other factor, the whole universe. Eco-critical views of Indian literature, if we see at first all of the Indian person knows the Dashavadar Sutra in the Joydev's Gita Govinda, where the animals are the image of God, and it reflects the Darwin's evolution theory and the entire history of Earth, how the life begins. Darwin's theory of evolution is reflected in the 10 incarnations of Vishnu. Life started in the water. Lord Vishnu, first avatar is fish. And water is very important factor. Then the Kurma, the second avatar, uh, tortoise, and it is the relationship of water to earth. Third is the mammals. Bora. In our Bengali rituals, Veda and Upanishads, we see how our women of villages worship the trees, plants, etc. To restore ecosystem, they worship pond, the waterland, name our Bengali Broto Katha, Punni Prukur Broto, the little girls, they worship the water ponds. The ritual related the poems said us to restore ecosystem. The Broto, the Magha Mandala, the Itu Puja, also they worship the sun god. Our great poet Rabindranath's literature is the most relevant to discuss the nature and ecosystem and eco-critical analysis of Rabindranath Tagore's poem. In our literature and art, the elements which can influence the life of human, it is believed that there is a close affinity between nature and literature. Eco-criticism is relatively a newly developed theory which explores the redefines the relationships between literature and nature. It defines the roots of the problem of ecological crisis in relationship society of nature. Rabindranath Tagore, Indian poet and writer, is one of the echo making the figures of 20th century who composed masterpieces of poems all we know. The main objective of present paper to provide an eco-critical analysis of Rabindranath Tagore poems where theoretical framework of George Garrett to see how Tagore has in the eco-critical factors of the poems. At first, we see how he wrote the poems. Due to the civilization, man began to despoil all aspects of nature for his own benefit. He dug the earth for metal, destroyed the trees for habits, for industry. He destroyed the natural beauty of landscape with setting up industrial establishment and polluting land, water, and air. In the Rabindranath Tagore's poem, we see uh, the Rabindranath focused on the red oleanders. All we know the Rakta Karabi, Mukto Dhara, the home of the world and religion man, as a pioneer of ecology of Tagore with wisdom and perception, looks far ahead his times and declares that ecosystem of the world are viewed as a manifestation of deeper reality. Based on the funding of his thesis of our topic, Tagore believes that nature helps man to survive and lead a happy life, but nature never needs man for its survival. Though man needs nature to provide him with substance for his existence, it is who gives meaning to the existence of nature. Tagore's Muktodhara successfully notes a tussle which crops up in man's relationship with nature. This is what happens in the play in which Tagore displays his deep love of nature. Eco-criticism can define, explore, and even solve ecological problems of wider sense. In the recent years, we have become see the images of dying planet. It is essential for eco-critics to give greater consideration to the earth and phenomena which influence it. Pollution as one of these phenomena can cover various levels of concerns from the implicit to explicit environmental. Since environmental problems are the outcome of interaction between ecological knowledge of nature and its cultural infection by they require cultural analysis is as well as scientific. Due to their concern regarding environmental issues such as global warming and pollution, environmentalists do not welcome fundamental social change. They value rural ways of life and concerned about natural scarcity of nature. Tagore, in his sonnet named The Gardener, tries to attract the attention of his address to the importance of rural ways of life. Consider the following lines which the poet describes his tendency toward rural life and invites others to join him. Oh me, why did they build my house by the road to the market road? They moored laden the boats near my trees. In the above verse of his poem, uh, Tagore portrays the purchased land which dried out, cracked open with out of water. At last, I uh, describe the eco-critical analytical view of Mandana K. Mohammadi from Iran. She wrote, reference from Dr. Garrett, dwelling is not, uh, uh, she wrote, pastoral and wilderness imply the perspective of the aesthetic tourist, while the enforce the version of prophetic imagination, while dwelling represents long-term association of humans with landscape. Let us see how Tagore demonstrates dwelling of his poem. No, my friends, though he following lines, poet emphasizes an unwillingness of leave and homeland as dwelling. No, my friends, I shall never leave my hearth and home and retire into forest solitude. It rings no merry laughter in its echoing shade, and if the end of no saffron. So this is Tagore's view, and at conclusion, I like to say that the Tagore has included various eco-critical elements such as earth and pollution, wilderness, dwelling animals in his poems. Therefore, it can be said the classification of Garrett 2004 was a helpful tool to analyze Rabindranath Tagore's poem regarding eco-critical approach. At last, I convey my thanks to the organizer, and my view is that to eco-critical analysis of literature and to restore our ecosystem, we just love our nature and protect it, because every in our ecosystem we are all dependent of each our society and nature and our person. And in this pandemic situation, we can believe that our nature, we love our nature and we love our mother nature and restore our ecosystem and love each trees and every person of the planet. Thank you, everybody. And I say namaskar. And in from my Veda, I like to utter the language and Pashu Devasa Kabbam. Our nature is a poem of our God. So we love nature and restore our ecosystem. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, madam. I think you made a lovely, wonderful beginning, of fact, of this webinar. Started with the literature. You mentioned about Rabindranath Tagore, and he mentioned about the nature, plant, animals. I think wonderful, really part you did it. You mentioned beautifully that ecosystem as a system is very, very important, which is what it is interdependent and also try really to be small or big. And therefore, in the literature, whichever literature we take, whether it's Indian or English or anywhere, I think ecosystem plays a very, very important part. Now, it's a wonderful, ma'am. I think so nice of you. Thank you very much for really highlighting on the literature part as what really ecosystem is and how everybody is sensitive to this part in the literature. Thanks a lot once again. May I now request Professor Nandi, Swati Nandi Chakraborty, is she around? Professor, are you here?
Yes, yes, I'm here, sir.
Oh, lovely. That's right. Professor Swati Nandi Chakraborty, she is an environmentalist scientist, and therefore, I think from the literature we move on to a broader aspect of the environment as to how she really looks at from that point of view. And yeah, Professor, please you feel free. You're open now. You can start.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Okay. So it's really, I feel really great to have just share in this platform with all the dignitaries. And here first, I would like to give the thanks to Dr. Ramakanta Patro to take that initiative to organize such a like a live program on the buzz topic that restoring our ecosystem. And really we need to have this awareness, and we all are here also Dr. Manush Kumar Thakur, CMA Manush Kumar Thakur, also the president of this society. And we have here the Dr. Ratan Sharma, and we are also really thanks to have that person with this to moderate as a moderator on these sessions, and Dr. Sujata Bakshi, and she has really given the enlighten us the few topics on this area. So now just I have also the co-speaker. Now I'm just giving the highlighting portions on the role of wetland, like how this role of wetland are also giving the like the restorations of the ecosystem part, like the carbon sequestrations. I think this carbon sequestration is nowadays it is very common words, like we are all are heard about this. So this carbon sequestrations, how can be achieved through this the role of wetlands and also the mangroves, like the cultivations of the more mangroves if we just increase in our society, so that it will be ultimately helps to restore from different point of view. So first of all, I'll like to give you the introductions about that, how the wetland is giving the relations with that the global warming and also the sequestrations of the carbons, carbon balance. These are all very, very like important words, become the important words nowadays in our life. Like in every industry, in every like organizations, they are trying to balance these things by a different way. This carbon balancing is takes place because this global warming is a very important like area where we are just getting to exposures of that, like to have a different types of like the natural hazards which are coming in different parts of the world in different types, and not only the India, I should say, like the different parts of the world are getting affected by through this global warming. So there, this carbon emissions is very casual, not a, I should not mention is a casual factor. It is from the different industry, they are giving this carbon in that atmosphere. The people, we are the people, we are also giving the carbon footprints in the atmospheres. So they like this very high carbon stocks, some of the highest on the planet, like 0.25% of the land surface, or 3% of the world soil's carbons. And the source of methane or another species, in case of the greenhouse gas emissions, that also being introduced by the different animal sources and also the different mycogenic bacteria which are present not in the marshland, in the soils and everywhere else. So that also introduced on that carbon, like increasing that GHG gases in the environment. So now this wetland, like the covering the rates of wetland, how much we are taking concern about this wetland, and that can also help us to control these greenhouse gas emissions. What we are seeing, like the different parts of the worlds are now focusing on this particular area. So why wetlands? Because we know that in if you just see the service, like how the wetlands gives us, like it is obviously it gives the flood controls, it gives us the coastal system protections from the storms and tsunamis that we in every year we have seen from different parts of our coastal area, how it is being like totally protected by the help of different types of mangrove species and developed coastal areas, how they are just protecting us. And this breeding and the rearing habitat of the fish and the shellfishes, that also very resourceful for our society. And there also the ecotourism is alternative way that how we should protect or we should develop the wetland part of our like total environments. And there obviously it is rich in biodiversity. And wherever you go and that can be the coastal wetland areas or in any other parts of the like the wetland areas, so you can get a very high biodiversity on that region. So that habitat for the rare and the endangered species are also can be the source of on that areas. And last of all, this is the storage of the carbon. So you can see like there are the enormous types of the plants and the number of plants that the leafy, like that their diversity can accumulate these carbons. And this carbon alternatively will help in the carbon sequestration part. And as last in Ramsar conventions, like it was an international treaty, and they have given the particular different like different country, they have participated on that treaty, and they have made a particular agreement that they will develop their wetland, and that country will develop their wetland, they will maintain their wetland, and within that period we can just fortunate enough to have in Kolkata one Ramsar site, that is East Kolkata wetland area, and that is a very big land, and also have the aquacultures over there, and also the different types of irrigations land over there, and also it is having a waste water treatment areas. So that is the basically the area like what we can mention about that wetland is a global initiative. What we can like maintenance of the wetland, like how we are maintaining, what are the species are there, how the algal biodiversity are, how naturally they're accumulating the different chemical parts. This is also the question of discussions and different research angles, like the different organizations they are working on these areas. And if you see, this is the global mangrove distributions part all over the world. So that part is having basically the rich mangrove sources, but we need to protect, and we don't, it is not very much on that areas. So it is day by day, it gets loose. There are the different reasons there. There the natural reasons are there, the like the man-made reasons are there. So we need to have that kind that all the points have to be addressed on that areas to protect our environment. So if we see that wetlands are basically the nature of kidneys, it perform the work of a kidney. It is a natural sink also. So there the cleansing the environment. So it is balancing the water retentions of the land. So that are the particular like definitions, what you can say that has been given by the WWF. And there are over 42 Ramsar sites in India. So there are the wetlands of international importance. As I said, like this after the Ramsar Convention, so every country have taken the initiative to protect that. And from the February 1st in 1982, the country's wetland on Ramsar site are being mainly designated, and they have started in case of Kolkata, that is in 2002, they have got that designations to as a Ramsar site. And like that way, like there are the few lands which in India, I'm basically given the examples like the Vitarkanika mangroves, Ashtamudi, and Sundarban, Silka, Sambal, like, so all that have the definite basic few diversity on that particular forest and the land itself. So that are the beauty of the nature in our society. And few facts, if we see like the how this East Kolkata wetland give us the particular facilities, and there are the different types of naturally how they are treating the wastewater. It is not only the responsible for preventing the city from the massive inundations in case of the heavy rain, but also ensure that the groundwater depletions does not emerge as a major threat to the society. So you can think it is like protecting from the every area, not only providing us the nutritional benefit by their cultivations, or they have like in this Kolkata wetland is having a major part of the agriculture area, and also it's doing regular manner in fish farms, and that gives the most of the half of the city's fish productions from that area. And also there are the lots of berries are there, and there are the like if you see the fish pond, that is 260 shallow fish ponds are there, and there the receives the 900 MLD pre-settled sewage from the Kolkata metropolitan. So you can see about the capacity of acting as an like kidney on that particular place, that is happening naturally. So we have to be very concerned about this East Kolkata wetland areas, and also the wetlands of other parts of our India itself. And algae and other aquatic plants are used to feed up to the 17 species of the fish culture in these ponds. If you just check the different particular pond itself, they have the different variety of the algae. They have the different variety of the fish species. So and if you see the in part of the coastal areas too, so their floras, faunas, diversity are like very beautifully that is placed. So now we need to have a look on that how we can just to conserve the species, not only like artificial conservations. I should say we should go in further more on that, so we can do the different types of germplasm conservations with the help of Zoological Survey of India and all that, so that the few species which we are losing, we can make them like survive in different form in that particular like in germplasm itself, so that it may remain in our our society. So there are the traditional waste recovery practice, which provides substance opportunities for a large economically underprivileged populations. And there are 0.15 million living in over 37 modules. So you can see like the populations over there. And now we are coming to the points of this the mangroves area. So this mangroves, how much it is rich, and how much if from 2014, if we see like there are the few data, like there the top 20 countries are there which have the mostly mangrove areas, like if you see in the kilometer square, like that is the 23 to 23,143 kilometers square, so ranges of 935. And there the different country are varying with that mangrove pattern also. Now, if it comes to the point of mangrove deforestation, so there are the two like driven factors are there. One is the natural and another one is the human driven. So what I can explain through the natural patterns. So there are the different natural calamities. Is every year it comes, and it really gives the distractions on that coastal part itself. As of in our like in India, in West Bengal, like there are the Sundarban is a very like rich delta parts is there, and it is associated with the Bangladesh also. So it's protecting us from the different natural calamities, and that also like due to different factors, there the salinity of the waters, there the different mixing of the different waters like parameters is not being properly maintained, and there the natural sources also loses the mangroves diversity over there. And human driven forces, like human have started getting on that particular place itself, they are staying on that place itself, they are raising their animals on their area, on their mangrove areas too. And it is a very common problem for them also. Like when like I just share these thoughts with you, like when I used to talk with them, and they have informed like that the people there, those who are staying over there, they're grazing their goat, their cow on that areas, and that are mainly fed on that mangrove seeds in a very seedling times. And that basically also a human driven deforestations, you can say, like it is giving the threat to develop of that mangroves, not which are being like cultivated naturally, that is good, and which are just to come in the exposures of the man-made areas, so that get lost due to that all that factors. And that you can see there are the different like these factors is vary from global factors to Southeast Asia, and if you can check on the outside of the Southeast Asia, that also vary from this two, that also balancing on that two areas, like the natural how the deforestation takes place and the human drive. And there are the mangroves nature are also like different in different span of the Pacific regions to the other parts. And if you see the storing of the carbon more than the 4 times higher than those stored in the tropical upland forest, so that is also can be the one app of the capacity to like to naturally how it can accumulate the carbon source. And there are the different parts of the length of the mangroves are also being very important, which are being accumulating on the different areas of the ecosystem to capturing the carbon's pattern that can be explained through this particular graph itself. And there are the high potential for the climate change mitigations are there. These mangroves are really working on that areas. And if you see, this is also the part like the carbon stocks in degraded mangroves. Like the if you check that there are the different types of mangrove patterns are there, and there if we check the how it is accumulating the carbons on the different parts of the like this nature of the mangroves are also accumulating in different forms. And there the global aquaculture productions, if you see the different wetland part, that also giving the rising conditions of the productions of the fish and the different types of, not only I should say about the fish, there are the different faunas that has been also day to day it is being consumed by the different human natural the human are taking that particular things for the nutritions and for the source of the foods, for the protein source from there. So this is also becoming a threat to our natural environment. And if you see there the sea rising level due to the global warming, that also gives the threat to on that areas of the coastal areas. And there really it gives the threat not only the floras and that also the faunas which are being present on the coastal areas of that particular land itself. And there the if you see this particular graph, and you can see like the region how much it is in the Indian, how much it is in the Bangladesh, and both the country are sharing this particular wetlands in a different way. And they are like located on the southwestern part of the delta part, and Sundarban constitute over the 60% of the country's total mangrove. And it is a UNESCO World Heritage Sites, home to the globally threatened species such as the critically endangered and the northern river therapian Basca and the endangered iridoid, and also the vulnerable few fishes are also present on that mangroves itself. So, like to conserve that to floras and faunas, we need to make that wetlands and also that the Sundarbans areas and the mangroves we need to be very like cautious about to the movement of the humans on that areas for any reason that can be like that is the other part. And there are the major counterparts of the Indian Sundarban mangroves. Like if you see there the few things like there are the few this species are basically present on that area, and there are the few species which are very vulnerable and that are already lose reaches the extinction rate on that particular mangroves areas. So now if you see there are the few all that species are mainly present on that mangroves areas in the Sundarban areas. So mostly there the Rhizos varicea is a most species which are being found on that area. And there the local names are there, Amur, and you are very known about the Shundari and the Hetal and all that plants, and there the leafy forms, and there how much the percentage the accumulations are there. So that studies are also need to be done very very enormously, like to then only the selections of the plants to grow over there will be more concise, and that the policy must be more being on that focus on that particular area for to protect their mangroves areas. And this is the global pitland distributions and how much the conditions all over the world, and how we are facing out how we are losing the greenery on that whole areas. And if you see that global carbon stored in the tropical pitland, the basically the Southeast Asia, it is storing the 76%. And here next, we should come on the South America, that is the 11%, and Africa is the 9%. And that is totally 92 grams of the carbon. So that has been taken from the global change biology sources. And here basically why we should go for like maintaining these adaptations, or to we should adopt that type of ecosystems, because we are now basically depends on the circular bioeconomy. So the circular bioeconomy ultimately gives the raw material, and from that raw materials how the different technological inventions product recycle, ultimately we can just balance the all the resources. That is our main focus point, and now to restore our planets. And there the capacity building through that is required the enormous training, extensive training on the different areas for the different utilizations of the raw materials, how we should balance on that area. And there the public awareness, obviously there the organizations, different NGOs, different government levels officials, they are taking the great initiative to organize this awareness among the pupils. And the good understanding of the ecosystem service, obviously that is ultimately develop the circular bioeconomy, that how much resource that obviously that not in the India, and it will obviously differ from the other parts of the world. So based on the natural resource, that ecosystem service has to be provided, and the promoting the policy changes and measures are required for that purposes. And if you see that there the this particular pitlands ecosystem supports us in a different way, not only provides the climate change, or they are giving the carbon sequestrations, not only that they are maintaining the fresh water cycle, they are giving the pollutions control, they are giving the nutritional sources, and the cultural aesthetic, and also the recreational, educational, and the spiritual different tools are being more required to conduct on that area, so that people can get a calm stand on that area's diversity. And the students must know about the diversity of that particular places, how we should then we can be conscious about more on that areas. And last of all, that the tropical wetlands are the key ecosystem for the climate change adaptations and the mitigations. And their projects may be developed to mitigate the climate change, but could be more strategic if synergized to with the adaptations of the objective. So first we need to fix up our objective, that where we want to reach. And though in every year we are not able to reach few targets, still we need to work more on that aspect, that and very scientifically we need to move forward for that areas to develop and to mitigate the climate change problems what we are facing. And that adaptations are required from us only, and our activity ultimately matters on that area. And there, obviously, the scientific data will contribute more to go to control that greenhouse gas emissions and that inventories. And whenever we'll search about for any kind of like the alternatives, or to use that alternatives in a different business or in a bioeconomical way, so that data must be very clear, that data must require very transparent form, so that we can build a very good economy from out of it. So thank you for your patience, and thank you all to give me that opportunity to share my views with you all.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Swati. I think it's a very wonderful presentation. You had it very elaborate on wetland and this climate change. I think it's an issue which is bothering every one of us as a nation, as an individual, and I think as a corporate. I think there has been a lot of changes which have been taken place in the climate. At a global level, probably there has been agreements and also some actions relating to the reduction of the, the changes which are to be there, and the emission which needs to be really controlled. And they want to reduce the temperature at a certain level and so on and so forth. We'll not get into those details, but certainly I think that is very important issue, which is very, very, very important. Recently also, many governments in fact came out with some of those targets, how to reduce that temperature. So I think this is a very burning issue, which is of everybody of interest. And I think we should take interest in that. Thank you very much, Dr. Swati. You use wetland, in fact, aspects, flood control and reducing that tsunami and that sort of a thing, and how really to conserve that part of a thing. You are an expert in that area. It's wonderful. So nice of you. You did it. Great job. Thanks a lot once again, Dr. Swati. Now, friends, we move to another thing, which is once again environment related, clean energy. And now energy which we are getting, it emitting a lot of, those gases, a lot of pollution happening and so on and so forth. Now, which is either a coal-based or petroleum or also the other things. Can we think in terms of clean energy aspects? And that is where our expert, Dr. Kolhei comes into the picture. Dr. Mohan Lal Kolhei is an authority in the energy sector. He has come out with a very solar photovoltaic ecosystem, which is for institutional eco-friendly energy system. Now, when we have the institutional eco-friendly energy system, naturally you are able to control whatever the emission really take place through the system of energy. And that is a very crucial part of it. I won't take much time. We'll have a lot of those things maybe later on. Get ready with a lot of questions which you might be having in your mind with our speakers. So may I request Dr. Mohan Kolhei to please come forward and share your views on this, please. Dr. Kolhei.
Good. I think it was unmute.
Yeah, sir. Unmute, sir.
Yeah, and now it's okay?
It's okay. Now it's very clear and now loud.
No problem. So thank you very much, Professor Ratan Sharma, for giving so nice introduction and moderating this session on very timely topic which we are facing. And thank you very much, Dr. Patraji, for organizing this webinar in which we can have discussion on different aspects of the ecosystem. So, considering my track record or the background working on clean energy technology, I would like to talk with you that how the solar photovoltaic system can contribute towards the ecosystem. Overall, the objective is that we want to have eco-friendly energy sources, and these eco-friendly energy sources can effectively contribute in reducing the greenhouse gas emissions, at the same time doing the local socio-economic development also. So when we consider the solar photovoltaic system, it has a good potential for getting integrated into the distributed energy system. And most of us are living within the distributed energy system. So it means that we can produce our own clean energy and contribute in reducing the greenhouse gas emissions, as well as on many other factors also. Even with the solar photovoltaic system, when we are going to operate them or integrate them within the distributed network, we are also reducing the investment on the infrastructure also. So here you can see that with reference to the ecosystem, right, we can have multiple factors which can be contributed, right, from the clean energy sources, especially when we are going to utilize them at the local level. So here I tried to cover that. Let's say most of us are from the educational background or educational institutes. So how our institutes can become one eco-friendly, how our institutes should have eco-friendly energy system, and for that, how the photovoltaic system can be used. For that purpose, I divided my today's talk in, let's say, 10 points. First, I'm going to talk briefly about the solar photovoltaic technology development. Second point, I'm going to talk about what makes photovoltaic more suitable for institutional energy system. What types of institutional photovoltaic system or solar energy system should be there. Then fourth and fifth points, they are more like a technical point. So we will skip them, but I will just like to give you overview that whenever we have the institutional photovoltaic based energy system, we are going to face many technical challenges also. So to overcome those technical challenges, we need to develop different type of control strategies also. For that, we have to consider not only the technical, but also the economic operation also. Then our next very interesting point is that what should be the operational architecture when we want to make the institutional energy system more eco-friendly. So that is again very interesting point. Then of course everyone wants to have the clean energy. We want to contribute in reducing the greenhouse gas emission. We want to contribute for the sustainable development, socio-economic development also. Then of course, then for that purpose, we need to have some technical considerations, standards and specifications also. Then another very interesting point, that is from the business point of view. Let's say when we have this eco-friendly energy system within the distributed network, right, then what type of business models should be there? Just a minute. So then I was talking about the business models. So here I will describe you that within the distributed network, and especially with the institutional photovoltaic energy system, what type of different type of business models should be there. Okay, and then I am going to share some typical case studies, and one case study is from India also. Then I am going to summarize the results. Right. So we know that the solar photovoltaic technology had been started in 1941, and now you can see that by the end of 2018, right, global installed solar capacity is around 480 gigawatt, and global average solar photovoltaic auction price is $85 per megawatt, and out of 480 megawatt of grid solar photovoltaic system is only 2.94 gigawatt, and the remaining very high, let's say around 477 gigawatt is almost connected within the distributed network or to the grid. Okay, so here we have to see that how this solar photovoltaic system is contributing towards the eco-friendly energy system within the distributed network. Now you can see here that how the growth is happening. If we consider from 2010 base point to the till 2020, you can see that how the annual price of the photovoltaic is decreasing. It has been from 2010 to 2020, in last 10 years, the reduction of the photovoltaic price is of 8.75%. And at the same time, you can see that the blue bars, like where you can see that global solar module production in gigawatt, how it is increasing. So here you can see that with reference to the cost decline, the production is increasing. And the levelized cost of energy in 2018, it was around 0.4 US dollar per kilowatt hour. And it is expected by 2030, it is going to drop further. So with reference to that, you can see that how the solar photovoltaic system is going to contribute towards the eco-friendly distributed renewable energy system. If we compare with reference to the 2018 level, cumulative solar photovoltaic capacity is expected to grow 6 times by 2030, and with cumulative annual average growth rate of nearly 9% by 2050. It means that the clean energy sources such as solar photovoltaic system are going to contribute effectively in reducing the greenhouse gas emissions. Now another question which comes in many of our in most of our mind, that we can see that there is a very different type of efficiencies of the solar cells and the module efficiency. Most of the solar cells, right, they are used with either single crystalline or multi-crystalline, and their efficiency is, let's say, around 25%, and they are going to contribute effectively for the installation of the solar photovoltaic system. Now here, another very key point which I would like to mention that we covered in another project, that when we are going to have this huge amount of solar photovoltaic system installed, okay, then we have to consider about at the end of the lifetime, how we have to do the recycling of the solar photovoltaic panels. What type of technologies we have to use, how the recycling businesses they can be developed. In one of my work, we worked on developing the policy framework for the Indian government, especially taking into account the Indian conditions and Indian scenario of photovoltaic group and end of the lifetime of the photovoltaic system. So how we have to do the recycling, what type of business opportunities are going to be there, those who want to work in the recycling of the solar photovoltaic system. So that is again coming within the ecosystem, or maybe we can say within the circular economy. So now, coming back to the key point of institutional photovoltaic energy system, in most of the institutes, due to corporate social responsibility or maybe due to many other factors, all organizations, they have to provide some contribution for producing the local clean energy. So here I have taken some typical examples. For example, let's say in Thailand, Thaimasat University, they have installed the solar photovoltaic system within their campus in a so intelligent way so that they can provide the almost all required energy by using the solar photovoltaic system. Then another example which I have taken from the United States, IKEA store, they also installed solar photovoltaic system, right? And that solar photovoltaic system is providing the clean energy to this IKEA store. Then this another very nice example from the Napier Edinburgh University, Scotland, where I have been very closely associated. So here on the wall of the buildings, the solar photovoltaic system have been installed to produce the local electricity. And here the produced local electricity have been used, of course, with grid connection for storing in the form of hydrogen also. Then again, the hydrogen is a very, very good energy carrier, which is having very clean, which is very clean fuel basically. When we burn hydrogen or when we use the hydrogen in the fuel cell or in any combustion process, right, we are going to get basically the H2 as an output. So that we considered here. And similarly here you can see that in South Africa also there is a KFC outlet where the institutional photovoltaic system, how it has been installed. Similarly here at the parking place of the Los Angeles of California, where the solar photovoltaic system is there, and the solar photovoltaic system is used to charge the electric vehicles also. And similarly here in Malaysia, then how this rooftop solar photovoltaic have been used on the warehouse. Related to this point, I have one project in which Rema supermarket, which is in Norway, they are also utilizing the same concept where the solar photovoltaic system is there, and they are using that solar photovoltaic system in coordination with battery and thermal energy storage for fulfilling the local demand of the supermarket warehouse. So here, with reference to this slide, you can see that how there are different potentials for using the institutional photovoltaic system. So how this institutional photovoltaic system or institutional energy system is going to help us? It is going to help us for energy decarbonization through zero energy buildings. It is going to help us for improving the reliability. It is also going to contribute towards the energy pricing, market energy pricing. And especially when we take the institutional energy system, its load characteristics matches very well with the photovoltaic characteristics. So there are a lot of good points, right, through which this solar photovoltaic system can work locally for producing the energy as per the requirement, especially for the case of the institutional energy system. And energy decarbonization through zero energy building is another very interesting point, right, which we need to consider, especially for the institutional photovoltaic energy system. Energy decarbonization is vital to keep the rise in global temperature well below 200 degrees centigrade, in line with the aims of the Paris Agreement. Electricity generation and industry together responsible for about 65% of all energy related CO2 emissions, and the remaining 35% are coming from transport, building, and district heating. So here you can see that when we are talking about the renewable energy sources, and especially those who are contributing towards the electricity. So here you can see that the most of around 65% of the CO2 emission is coming from the electricity generation, right? So this eco-friendly energy sources, eco-friendly electrical energy sources within the distributed network are going to effectively contribute for reducing the greenhouse gas emissions. So here in this picture, you can see that how the renewable share in electricity generation, if it is changing. So historical progress, if you see from 2015 to 2019, it was around 23%, and in 2018, 26%. But where we are moving, so it is expected by 2030 going to be at 38%, and by 2050, 55%. Okay, and where we need to go, we need to be, right? So it is, but basically based on the International Partnership for Energy Cooperation 2018 document, it is expected that if we are going to put acceleration, then by 2030, 57% renewable shares in electricity will be there, and by 2050, it is going to be 86%. So then for that, the zero energy buildings or the photovoltaic system which have been integrated within the building are going to effectively contribute. And especially for that purpose, institutional energy systems are going to play the major role. So if we consider the zero energy building, so it means that an energy efficient building, where on a source energy basis, the actual annual delivered energy is less than or equal to the on-site renewable exported energy. So in the beginning of 2030, designs for new buildings or major renovations of government buildings must be fossil free and essentially zero net energy. So it means that we need to have in almost all new buildings and also in the retrofits of the old buildings also. For considering the zero energy concept, we need to integrate intelligently distributed energy resources which are more eco-friendly. So for that, the solar photovoltaic system is the key source. Okay, and as per the EU regulation, a building that has a very high energy performance with the nearly zero or very low amount of energy required covered to a very significant extent by energy from renewable energy sources, including energy from renewable sources, should be produced on site or nearby. So what we were talking till this point, it has also been justified by the regulation provided by the European Union as well as on the United States also. And I believe that the same regulations will be applied within the Indian context also. So from that point of view, this solar photovoltaic system is a quite very good source for as an eco-friendly energy sources. Now, another very interesting point, you might have seen that we want to have the reliable power in any institutional energy system. And this reliable power, it means that with the help of the solar photovoltaic system, we are going to get the intermittent power output, 1 point. So we have to overcome those intermittency. And at the same time, we have seen that there is always some power outage throughout the world, not only in India, and depending on the situations and conditions like that. So we have to see that how the typical power outage have been experienced in the last 12 months, how much the duration of the typical momentary power outage that have been experienced in the past 12 months, on average, how much power outage cost, then how frequency does power outage occurs, how frequently duration of power for less than a minute, and how the customers, they are willing to pay more for electricity if after an outage, power is restored within the 5 minutes. So if we consider all these points together, then we have to see that if we are going to have decentralized institutional energy system, considering the photovoltaic system, then we have to make a very techno-economic design of the system in such a way that it can provide the reliable power to overcome the power outage, not only for short period of time, but also for a longer duration of power outage. So for that, we need to design the system, eco-friendly system, in such a way that it can provide the power at a wide reliability level. In the previous slide, the power outage, it was from the United States. Now, if we take into account around the developing countries and like that, right? So here you can see that if we take the Indian case, right? In Indian case, you can see that how the firms, they are identifying electricity as a major constraints, how much typical duration of outage is there, how the electrical outage in a typical month is there. So all these factors we need in designing the eco-friendly energy system. Then another point, which is very interesting, that market energy pricing. So here, for this, you can see that how historically the electricity prices are changed. In this slide, it is from the United States. And if you take into account the United Kingdom, 10% average annual increase is there. Similarly, if you take the case of the Germany, 10% average annual increase is there. And also in India, we have around 6.2% average annual increase in the photo. So considering reliability, market price, okay, and then of course we have to take into account the load characteristics of the institutional energy system for designing the eco-friendly energy system. So here you can see that the institutional energy system load, right? I have been in the typical examples. They matches very well with reference to the photovoltaic output. So here, one typical graph have been shown that how the photovoltaic power production is there, and how the load profile is there, and how we have to shift the load operation, or maybe how we have to store the photovoltaic energy, right? Taking into account the battery and so on and so forth, right? To provide the reliable power to the institution, because we want to supply the reliable power. So for that point of view, we here on this slide, I have given you some typical examples of the institutional photovoltaic system, how we can have the different configurations here. So this different configuration, they are not very important only from the technical point of view, but this configuration are very important from the business point of view also. Because here you can see that in some of the configuration, energy storage is there. Some of the configuration, they are directly connected to the grid here. So basically we are producing our local energy through the photovoltaic system. So how we are doing the net metering, how we are going to sell our electricity to the grid, and at what rate we are going to purchase the electricity. So those are all going to be the dynamic factors, right? And at the same time, when we have the battery also, so they are also going to play in, or they are also going to be used in the market dynamics also. So here you can see that the typical institutional photovoltaic energy system, they are very important, or their operation is going to be very important, not only from the technical point of view, but also from the sustainable business point of view also. So then here you can see that every configuration is different. For every configuration, we have to develop the different type of business models, right? So we have to consider the sustainability of the business models accordingly. So that is a very interesting point here, right? And we need a lot of research work on that also. So here, then again, another point, it depends how we are going to do the technical connections and like that. So at what voltage level we are connecting, right? And how much capacity is there for that particular institute and so on and so forth. So we will not go in much more detail on that one. So then here this connection topology of the grid connected system. So this diagram is more technical. So let's say we will skip the technical functionality of this diagram, but the key functionality, if we take into account the business point of view. So here, let's say we have the main power conditioning device here. So this main power conditioning device, right, it is going to monitor, or it is going to control the energy supply from here to the grid. Okay, so that's fine. But at the same time, it has to be controlled by using some energy pricing signals and the technical parameters also. So here I will go a little more technical and economical both, because some of you may be knowing that we have to work on active energy and reactive energy pricing mechanism also. So at this moment, mostly where our energy bills are based on active energy pricing, but in future we are also going to get the pricing on the reactive price also. So here, this controller, which we are going to use, that is for this eco-friendly solar photovoltaic system, which is also going to be a part of the energy business model or in energy business strategies, where we can have the pricing for active and reactive energy pricing. So that is again a very big point. So we cannot discuss that much more in detail, because we need some background on that one. But here you can see that how these different factors, they are going to affect the operation of eco-friendly solar photovoltaic system. So it is not that very simple, right? We have to work on many factors together. Then of course, then we need to have the different type of control topologies also. And this control topology, again, it is going to depend. Let's say if we have the photovoltaic based institutional energy system, and in that institutional energy system, let's say we want to have the electric vehicle charging system also, and then we want to utilize the locally produced photovoltaic energy. Then we have to consider how we can have the decentralized control or decentralized control, and then how we can have the AC architecture or DC architecture, or how we can have the hybrid architecture. And on all this architecture, then we have to see that how the different type of energy storage, a different type of distributed generators, solar photovoltaic panels, they can be integrated, and how we can make this local energy system more sustainable and reducing the energy demand to the main grid, and how this such type of system can facilitate for further penetration of electric vehicle system. And on top of that, we need to consider about the technical points, standards, and specifications also. So now here, because I know that many of the participants, they are from the business background, so we will now focus on the business models of photovoltaic institutional energy system. So there are very different type of business model. Let's say first business model, if we consider customer owned or upfront capital investment, then in that case, the capital expenditure is considered borne by the end energy consumer. Okay, and technology risk, again, it is by the end energy consumer, and asset and ownership, again, it is going with the end energy consumer. Operation and maintenance responsibility is again going with the end energy consumers. Then another very interesting point, that is a EPC. EPC means engineering, procurement, and construction, which has to be performed by a third party, and when we have to give the contract for that one, then again the consumer is going to generate the financial benefits on its investment through cost saving. So this is a very typical type of business model. Then another business models, which can be like a RESCO based, that is a renewable energy service company based. Then capital, technology, technology risk, asset ownership. So they are going to be taken care by the RESCO, including operation and maintenance responsibility. But then when it comes to the contracting modalities, then it has to like how we have to make it build, own, operate, or build, own, operate, and transfer, or lease to win, own, or even as a microgrid as a service, or maybe through power purchase agreement. Another one, which is utility own. So that utility own is quite easy to operate because it has been the capital investment, technology risk, asset ownership, operation and maintenance, everything. It has been taken control by the utility, and there is then contracting modalities that is going to be used as a build, own, operate, or maybe through power purchase agreement. Then another is the community owned. So that may be very good for the institutional energy system, where basically the local community means the local institute. They can have their own investment, and then the risk is basically again it is going to be taken by care by the community, or maybe how the local utility may. Right. So the local community or local utility, they are going to have the ownership of them. And similarly, then they have to take care of the operation and maintenance responsibility also. Then here we have to see that how it is going to be operated as a build, own, operate, or maybe through power purchase agreement, or through as a mass means microgrid as a service model also. Another one is pay as you go, borne by investor, means capital expenditure, technology risk, or asset ownership. Basically, they are going to be covered by the investors. Then operation and maintenance, then again it has to be provided by some third party service provider, and then it can be operated as a BOO or PPA, or maybe it can be leased here. So here you can see that, and in a nutshell, or in the conclusion. So there are different type of business models can be developed for operation of eco-friendly energy system for a particular institution. And for every business models, we have to do the different type of analysis, how we are going to do it, right? So here you can see that even if we are thinking about the photovoltaic system, so here you can see that not only from the technology point of view, but from the business point of view, we have to see that how the capital expenditure is there, who is going to cover the technology risk, how the asset ownership is there, who is going to take the operation and maintenance, and what type of contract is going to be there for with reference to the electrical energy. So here in this slide, I have taken one case from the Microgrid Technology Center from USA. So there, here you can see that how the different type of energy sources, they have been integrated together with reference to the with giving more focus on the solar photovoltaic system. So you can see that how the value proposition is providing to ensure resilient and reliable power for OATI. Okay, and how it is marginal cost has to be included in this microgrid also. Then here from the another case study which I have taken from the Japan, it is from the Nagoya landfill PV based microgrid, and all the values they have been given here. And the idea behind this microgrid is that how we can have the solar photovoltaic, okay, and how to provide the reliable power, how much battery capacity has to be there, okay, and how they can be configured on two buses or in two architecture where we can have the DC bus also and AC bus also. So DC bus means on which we can have the electric vehicle charging also. So that is a very interesting point. Then here in the Shanghai, you can see that this is a very interesting microgrid which have been developed at the Shanghai in cooperation with many organizations. For example, Aalborg University, Tsinghua University, Comstro, and so on and so forth. So this setup have been used not only testing the different technical functionality, but it is also used to test different type of energy management operational strategy also. Okay, and in this different type of energy management operational strategy, key factors which have been taken into account, not only the power quality, but also in making the profit from these renewable energy sources. Then another very interesting system on which I was working in Canada, that one was based on energy storage in the form of hydrogen. Then another case, this is from the India, Delhi, New Delhi, that is a PV based microgrid. And for this PV based microgrid, we developed one microgrid architecture. And this microgrid architecture is considering the techno-economical operation with minimum cost of generation and maximum utilization of local energy and enhancing the energy storage participation here. So here, this system is located at Gurugram near New Delhi in the Delhi facility. And here you can see how the configuration of the system is there. If we don't have the photovoltaic, then with the utility grid and distributed generator, basically we have to provide the reliable power to this institutional load. So we need to have the distributed generator. But with the help of, if suppose we don't have the photovoltaic system, and if we are considering the distributed generation, DG and the grid, and if we are taking into account the grid outage, real grid outage condition in that area, so here you can see that grid is providing 87.3% energy and DG is providing 12.7% of energy. But now we want to have the photovoltaic system or eco-friendly energy system. So in that institutional energy system. So and then of course then we need to provide the battery bank also. So here, considering the same system, we designed the system where we have the photovoltaic capacity of 50 kilowatt peak because we have the limited area, and 30 kVA DG has been used, and battery capacity of 120 kilowatt hour. And then we have divided the two loads into category essential load and non-essential load. And the key factor in designing the system is that how we can maximize the photovoltaic energy and local energy storage utilization for providing the energy and reducing the grid supply. So battery energy throughput have been the key factor in this one. So this is a more technical. So this technical, or you can say that this energy management strategy which have been used in finding out the energy flow between the different sources and the constants also. So we will skip this one, and this is the flow chart for that one. Now here you can see the results of this system. So energy from the grid, right? How it has been there in case in one case, in another case. Energy from the distributed generator and energy from the distributed generator when we have the photovoltaic system. So here you can see that we are reducing the reducing the energy supply from the distributed generator significantly if we are going to use the solar photovoltaic system and the battery bank. So in this case, here the distributed generator, it was a diesel based. So now here you can see that it is operating at a very minimum time period. So we are reducing huge amount of CO2 also. So without PV and battery, you can see that grid has provided 12.7%. Grid has provided 83.3% and distributed generator 12.7%. But when we have the PV and battery integration, grid supply have been reduced to 51%, photovoltaic 48%, and DG to only 1%. So that have been a very interesting point to note here, that if we have to move towards the eco-friendly energy system, and with the photovoltaic, and especially for the institutional system, how much reduction is there from the grid supply, how much reduction is there from the diesel generator, let's say, and how we are increasing the penetration of clean energy sources. So here you can say that with a simple modification and with the available area of that institute, we are in a position to produce 50% of electrical energy locally by using the photovoltaic system. And in this slide, again, if you are interested, you can see that how the month-wise contribution is there from the energy from the photovoltaic, energy from the grid, as well as how the battery energy throughput have been there. And you can see that energy from the diesel generator has been drastically reduced. So DG energy contribution is only between 1 to 3%. Battery energy throughput, that is because we want to maximize the local energy resources, so that has to be there. PV energy contribution, you can see that it is varying between 41 to 59%. If you take the annual average, it is around 50%. And grid contribution is varying between 40 to 58%, so on and so forth. So here you can see that how the value of the microgrid based on the photovoltaic, annual grid contribution, annual PV contribution, annual battery energy throughput, annual energy sold to the grid is 4%. How much annual electricity bill was there? So you can see that if we install the photovoltaic battery, we can reduce the electricity bill by 45%. And similarly, distributed generator fuel consumption, that is the diesel consumption, what we consider in this case, it is reducing by 93%. So the conclusion is that, right, especially with reference to this case, right, when we are talking about the ecosystem, so overall target is that we want to reduce the greenhouse gas emission. Okay, we want to have more clean energy sources within our distributed network. We don't want to have further investment in our infrastructure, especially at the higher end, right? So locally, how we can contribute towards the sustainable or achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal through clean energy participation. So here, with a simple example, you can see that if we are going to utilize effectively the institutional area for putting the photovoltaic system and doing the techno-economic optimum sizing, we can, and of course considering the power reliability also, we can make a significant contribution. Okay, so in this case, you can see that the reduced annual grid contribution from the grid is 45%, distributed generator by or diesel generator by 92%, and 45% reduction in annual grid energy bill. And then another point, you can see that the PV-based microgrid grid has a major contribution, 72% of the total net present cost of the microgrid system, followed by the battery 11%, solar photovoltaic 10%, DG 4%, and system converter 3%. So that is more from the net present cost of the investment which are going to be required by the solar photovoltaic, battery, and distributed generator, right? And of course the power conditioning devices and so on. So it is economically viable to integrate photovoltaic with institutional energy system, and 50% of the initial capital cost has come from solar photovoltaic, but over the project lifetime of 25 years, the solar PV cost has only 10% share of the net present value of the microgrid cost. So here this point is that how we are going to play with the numbers, how we are going to do the calculations, which type of calculation methodology or economic techniques we are going to use for that. So then another very interesting point is economically viable operation of photovoltaic based institutional energy system as microgrid with appropriate sizing of battery and distributed generators are required, and it depends on the electricity energy tariffs, and especially the case which I have presented here that have been funded by the Royal Norwegian Embassy in New Delhi in cooperation with the Energy and Resources Institute, Delhi, New Delhi, and the University of Bhavan, Norway. And one of my PhD student, he has completed his PhD on this topic, where he has presented not only the economics, but also the technical characteristics or technical architecture of such type of system. So if anyone is interested in that one, so one can refer that PhD thesis, which is freely available for open access through my university website. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kolhei, for this very elaborate, comprehensive, wonderful presentation you really made. I think it's very, very interesting to look at the clean energy that we can have it. In fact, you also really related very, very nicely about the eco-friendly system which we can adopt for generating the energy using the solar system. And I think we have been talking about, but I think there are companies and countries which have been adopting this system. So it was a clear, clean energy technology you mentioned. It reduces greenhouse emission you mentioned. And also you said it that, look, it has got a nice business model. And I look at the business model not from that point of view, which you have, who build, operate, and you just try to get into own and operate, or else you have a build, operate, or transfer, own and operate and transfer both. Also look at it as a student of management. Number one, if you want to adopt as a corporate, then what is that you look for it? When you look for it, you would like, as an overall level, you would like to decarbonize the whole issue, the emission of gases. This is very important you mentioned, the solar energy which is going to be there. Second thing which is very powerful you mentioned is that the reliability is very good. I think this was, again, because in India, we find a lot of supply of energy in terms of the reliability. We don't know when the power will go off. Now, of course, this is better. But earlier days, I think there has been issues relating to reliability. So at least with this solar energy, you can reduce it. And more important part you mentioned was, again, as a student of management, I look at it, the cost part. I mean, you produce energy at a lesser cost. I think this was very important. So this cost reduction is very important aspect which you mentioned about the solar energy part. And finally, you mentioned about the pricing of it. Even if you don't really want to get into producing it, you can still get it metered, and get into pricing is also a very important issue when you really get into. So these are very powerful things you mentioned about from your experience that you have it. So it was really nice. In fact, very comprehensive, since it came from your own work of how really the field work is there. I'm sure we'll have a lot of other questions. Maybe some of those will be asking. I think we'll get back to that. But I think it was very nice. We are really thankful to you, in fact, Dr. Kolhei, for having this. Hello. Please mute yourself, sir. I think we are still having a webinar and we are discussing this. Friends, we are in the last leg of the webinar, and I think now is the time for questions and answers. I know you may be having some questions in your mind. It was a very wonderful sessions that we have it. I must give you some refreshing ideas. We started with the overall part of relating to the literature and the nature, the environment. the ecosystem that we have it, which the chief guest, Dr. Sujata, really mentioned about it. In fact, all the people, those who are in the field of literature, and particularly Dr. Ravindranath Tagore, in fact, our the poet which is always being remembered, he mentioned in terms of the relationship of the nature and the environment and the sustainable goals which one should be having it. Having this overall sensitivity about the environment, we talked about how the wetland issue can be there, how to control it, because water many times is not a question of having water sufficient, but also having too much of water. What to do with that? Which comes up, you end up having a floods, you end up having tsunamis, and a lot of really issues happen. So it get into the climate change. So those issues were being discussed by Dr. Swati once again. And then we came to a lot of emissions, the gases which are being emitted, greenhouse gases which have been emitted. And I think Dr. Kolhei mentioned about 65% comes from the industry and other sources. And now that becomes very, very important part of it, how really to really reduce that. And he came out with a very wonderful suggestion that why not solar energy being used and this being used in that way. So that way, the whole idea was probably getting into this aspect. So I'll now request you, Dr. Swati is also with us and Dr. Kolhei is also there with us. So you may like to have some questions. I'm sure you may be, some questions must be bothering in your mind. How really we should have it. So maybe any question you may be having. Professor Priyadarshini, would you please have got any questions from the audience?
Yes, sir. Sir, I can see a couple of questions
Sure.
coming from the participants in the chat box.
Yes.
So shall I read out the questions, sir?
Please do so.
Yes. The first question comes from Sonak Basu. His question is, how we as human beings can adapt, coordinate, and sustain the ecosystem.
So it is not addressed to anyone, but still I think we can really always answer. Yeah. As an individual, you are saying, is that?
Okay. He has mentioned that how we as human beings can adapt and coordinate so as to sustain the ecosystem.
Okay. So anyone from the speaker side?
Okay, may I?
Yeah, sure. Please, Dr. Swati, please feel free.
Yeah. So it is very like a, what I can say, it's a very curious mind. It is coming like the human, only the persons like who will ultimately does whatever the things, the coordinations you can say, or the coordinations between the nature and technology. Like as of till now, we heard about lots of things from the speaker Colhay, and he has given the very like the new technological adaptations we should come forward for our to sustainable development. So obviously the people from around the world, based on the ecosystems, the need of the ecosystem, we must choose and we must to coordinate on that technological area to sustainable development for the society.
Great, great. Sure. Sir, would you like to, Dr. Kolhei, would you like to say something?
Yes. Good point. But he mentioned that how the humans, which we needed to adopt, coordinate, and sustain in the ecosystem. So there are many factors behind that. Like our human behavior impacts the energy consumption also, and with reference to the climate change or many things, right? We are changing our lifestyle, or maybe with reference to the introduction of new technologies also, or everything is getting changed. Right? So accordingly, we need to adjust. So some of the things we cannot adjust ourselves. So of course, nature is also going to get adjusted itself. But another very important point from the operational point of view, we have to make our infrastructure in such a way that it can incorporate the changing human behavior, change in the change in the new emerging technologies, as well as change in the climates, right? So that all these factors has to be taken into account at the high level for the operation of the infrastructure, whether it may be the electrical infrastructure, it may be the agriculture, or it may be the transport sector. So everything is very integrated together, and overall we have to see that how the nature is changing, and we have to adopt accordingly. So I mean, some of the things we cannot adopt individually, but we have to see from the system point of view.
Sure. I think some issue of network, yeah. Is it over, Dr. Kolhei?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I hope it is all right. I think we can discuss it further, of course. But I think let's take up the another question, Professor Priyadarshini.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. I can see another question from the participant, Anish Pradhan. His question is, what if with global warming, tropical areas go underwater?
Yeah.
So it's a very like dangerous thing what you are asking. Like we should not expect or we should not thought about that. Like now, as we are facing the problem, as you have understood, like different parts of the world, we are facing only the rising of the level of the sea. Like the few percentage that how it is just devastating the whole populations to us, and that's a great problem. It obviously not that will also give the threatened conditions to different types of floras, faunas, and as I have explained already that due to this natural calamity also you're losing different types of species. So like that's a really a great problem for us too. And obviously, as a developing country, due to that factor, different types of this type of that the emerging microbes that can be the resource from the water pollutions too. The harsh conditions of the environment will lead to the development of the different this threatened conditions to us. We are not able to predict very easily on that aspects, but it will be very dangerous. So I think we should make the cross fingers to not to call on that situation. So whatever the necessity from the government side, from the people side, or the from implementations of the policy, everything from us also, we should protect our environment.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Swati. I think it's nice. I'm sure it's all right, Pradhanji. Dr. Kolhei, would you like to add something?
No, nothing special, but yeah.
Hello.
70% mass মেঘনা দিয়ে ঢুকছে মানে একটা মেঘনা মেঘনার নাম হয়ে গেল 75% ওখান থেকে ঢুকছে 20% ঢুকছে বার্মা দিয়ে চায়না মাছ আর 5% এখান থেকে 5% অত 100% কেন কত নামই কেউ নেয়
Professor Priyadarshini?
Yes, sir. The next question comes from Neha Thakur. Her question is, waste management has been a serious issue, but only managing the waste can be considered as a step forward in saving our environment.
Yeah, of course. It is an issue, surely.
Yes, her question is only managing the waste is enough as a step forward to saving the environment? I think Neha Thakur, if you can elaborate it, unmute yourself and elaborate your question.
Yeah, Dr. Neha Thakur, are you around? All right, so it's all right. So whatever we have understood, I think we like to answer. So it's all right. What she's saying is waste management, is it enough to have a sustainable development? I'm sure there are multifarious things which we need to do at one go. So it's not a single step, it needs to be taken, or it will certainly affect, but then I don't think this will be sufficient only for sustainable. But yes, I think we should make a beginning. I'm sure that of course is there. We should make a beginning somewhere, waste management.
Yeah.
Any other question?
May I add something?
Oh,
to
sure,
that?
please do so. Please do so.
Actually, this is a kind of area like the waste management is advancing. Different country is coming forward to address that point. In India is also like looking forward to technological development on that area. But as like in technological advancement, few difficulties are always there in the adaptations. Like whenever we are switching on the any artificial intelligence method on to sensors, to device, on to capture any waste material, there the few problem is arising that the people are like us, we should be like cautious about to on that area, that the waste compositions, like when we are throwing the waste, that we are not very much being like considering the fact that what the waste we are throwing in a bin. So in the technological point of view, that makes a serious problem on that area. That was the reason, like we need to go for the source segregations, that the people in this front, I should send that message to everyone, that in the developed country they have already adopted that area well, but in us we are like whenever we are penalized on that area, we are strictly follow that rules. But until unless we are not getting that policy, we are not doing that source segregations part. And I think this is a kind of issues are like majorly in case of the waste management, we need to address from our side. Like I think so this is a kind of area that can save our environment too on that way.
Ajay, Damodar,
Sure.
একটু মাল
Uh,
রেজিস্ট্রেশন
Dr. Kolhei, would you like to add something?
I mean, yes. So overall, if we think, let's say all the system, they are very well integrated with each other. And of course, we want to have the complete system more eco-friendly. So we have to respect the waste management. We have to utilize the upcoming technology very intelligently. We have to use like different computing techniques also. Like for especially, I mean, the key objectives like how we can have the sustainable development of the humans or the society. So from with the key objective of the sustainable development, right, we have to see that how we are to integrate different factors into account, right? So that is really a big challenge also.
লেট হয়ে গেছে এখানে দেখে দেখে
If we consider, let's say, from the clean energy point of view,
এখান থেকে
so clean energy, they are also having a lot of technical challenges, operational challenges, business challenges, many things are there. And of course, then we have to consider from the circular economy point of view also, right? So then here you can see that how all the different factors, they are getting integrated with each other, right, for achieving the sustainable development goals, right? So we have to work in this ecosystem in such a way, right, so that we should not harm the nature and we should respect the nature basically. Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Professor Priyadarshini, I think, I'm sure there will be many more questions, but I think we are also running out of time. If you have some pressing questions, you can please float it, or else we can start the other part. Professor Priyadarshini.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can see a few more questions. Shall I take up one more
Maybe
question?
we take the last one because the time is, already we got a 7:17. So we have to finish by 7:30. I hope,
Sure, sir.
right? Yeah.
Sure,
Any
sir.
question which is very,
Yes, the last question is by Maruf Chowdhury. Her question is, have COVID-19 decreased the carbon dioxide concentration?
yeah. Yeah, ma'am. Any one of you, I'm sure. It's a general question, so naturally, we have our own opinion about it. Lockdown and all that is all right, up to you. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so come on, Dr. Swati.
Yeah. Because the question is like a very thought provoking. Like I hear this kind of studies, and like I think only within this few months it is very few studies have been done on that area. And obviously we can see another aspects of that pollutions, like due to lockdown there obviously the carbon footprints gets less. So there the positions of that AQI index and everything has get like a mm, like a good on that aspects, but it is not a kind of area we should be focused at the lockdown only the way, like to reduce the air pollutions or the like you can say like the like the any carbon dioxide or sulfur dioxide or nitrogen dioxide which have been coming forward from the transport fuel also. So it cannot be the solutions, but obviously the threat what we are facing due to the pandemic situations, that we need to address. And there are so many relations are there, not only the one particular factors with the carbon dioxide, there are the so other environmental factors are also have the relative parameters or the relation should be there. So we need to focus, we need more research on that area. I feel so.
Sir.
Yes, it is true because there are many factors. If we consider from the short-term point of view, long-term point of view, many things are there. Economic point of view also, many factors are there. Health point of view.
Sure.
Mental stress, many things.
Right. So, Mr. Chaudhary, I think you are able to get what we really want to really communicate to you. Professor Priyadarshini, now we move to the last leg of this. And I'll take a few minutes also really to get into what really I wanted really to say. This webinar, in fact, was a very interesting part of restoring the ecosystem and raising awareness. To me, it looked that it was something like that can we make the world a better place to live in? That was a basic philosophy that we wanted really to have it. Can we make the world a better place to live in? Now, where is the whole ecosystem needs really to, when you want to really have a look at the ecosystem, you need to have a really different look at it. We have to reimagine in a very different way. You have to think in a very different way. United Nations have come out with a lot of, thoughts in terms of what they should do it. And I think this is for the audience. And I think you people should be aware that in 2015, sustainable development goals being put by the United Nations Assembly, and they came out with those SDGs, sustainable development goals. The whole idea was that how can we make the world a better place? Now this relates to the question which was being first raised, the first question, what is that we can do? Which means can we adapt, adopt, coordinate, sustain the ecosystem, we as human beings. Now, we as a human being has a role, definitely important role to play. As an individual, that's why I started with the very first part. As an individual, what is our role? If we are in the corporate or in the business, then what is our role? And if you are in the community, then what is our role? And as a nation, what is our role? And then as a community of nations, with the whole committee that we are talking about, as a global level, what is our role? Interesting, and there is unfortunate or fortunate part is what if we are so interconnected globally. If there is anything happens climatically, let's suppose some change happens climatically, then I think it affects us. COVID happened, started from Wuhan in China, spread all everywhere, and also we are affected. So it was not something that national boundaries will really stop, COVID. Now, and that is what happens to everything which is happening. If there is a poverty anywhere, then I think it will affect us also as much as affecting anybody else all over the globe. So there are certain issues which are affecting every one of us. And that is where we have really to see as an individual what is going to be our role. Unfortunately, many a times, most of us, we have got a cycle of what we refer to cynicism. We can't do. We just can't do it. And that is where I got some very interesting part, what we refer to. We are under the trap, certain traps as an individual. Can we do it? And I name a few traps. For example, most of us, we believe that the world is just like this only. Aise hi chalta hai. This is the way things are. We can't do anything at all. Now that mindset is what is, we got it. Second trap we got is not my responsibility. It's somebody else. Pollution is being done by my neighbor. That the fellow who is trying to create, emitting a lot of gases, not me. My car is okay, right? Now he is doing it. Let him take care of responsibility. It's not my responsibility, right? Another thing is, can one person make a difference? What can I do? I'm a single person. Can I do something? I can't. It won't make a difference at all. Again, a trap. Another is, I don't have a time. I'm so busy. I don't have a time at all. I'm sorry. I'm so busy in the webinar. I have no time at all. I will be busy here. Interesting part is we believe this very interesting. We want to make the world a better place to live in. Who will refuse it? Who will decline it? Who will say no? Everybody will say. They will be overwhelmed. Let us suppose that you want that your neighbor or your friend should be friendly. He should give a smiling face. He should have a smiling face. But I'm so busy that I can't give a smile. I mean, look, I'm sorry, yaar, mere paas smile ka time nahi hai. I will not have a time to socialize. Now, these are some of the tips that we say. I'm not a saint. I can't do anything at all. I don't know. For example, Dr. Kolhei mentioned about interesting part. There are a lot of technical issues. Not my cup of tea. I can't do it. But do you feel that solar energy is the only thing you should remember? That solar is sun gives you energy and you use this part energy for your productive purposes. Can't you remember this? What is required is only the experts. Then you talk to Dr. Kolhei, get into that mode. Whenever we want to adopt, then I think what is required is an appreciation of the problem, whether problem exists or not. And problem exists in your mind and also around you and in the society. Do you observe it? If you're able to observe it, then probably there will be a solution. Somebody said nicely, whenever there's a problem, nature provides a solution also. It's only a question of how do you really try to find that creativity, use creativity, innovativeness to find a solution. That's all. And again, crisis should never go waste. And if you find there are problems, there are issues, we should never get into that. Of course, there are people who are very sensitive about these issues. I know some of you and most of you, but they don't know where to begin, how to begin. Now, those are again the important issues, where to begin. Talk to people. And that is where the networking helps. That is why the webinar of this type of what Professor Patra really is able really to get into that part. It really helps us to have an awareness. Once you are aware, you will have like-minded people, and therefore you get into that. And that's what I said it. From a cycle of cynicism to cycle of hope, if you are able to get into that cycle, and that's what Dr. Kolhei mentioned of, that circular economy. I think that is what is needed. We as a human being have a hope. We should have a hope. And if we are able to do it, we will be able really to come out with the problems, because there are technical people, they are experts. I'm not an expert. I'm a student of management, but I know one thing very clear. Business has to be sustainable in the long run. It has to serve the society. And what Dr. Kolhei mentioned, what Dr. Swati was mentioning is that cost reduction. Find solutions which are reducing the cost. Sell it to the people. I'm sure people will buy. And that's what refers to sustainable development, which is aligned with the goals which being set by UN. And that is what we should be doing it. And final part which I want to mention is that what is the role of education ultimately? We are all belong to the education community. What is that we are doing it? Are we only trying really to publish, get into that mode? Are we also making our students aware of the problem, what is happening. For example, of waste management. I'm sure about, as I said, the student of management always look at it, markets are important, consumers are important. Consumers are important, right? Customers are important. Consumerism is bad. Consumer is important, consumerism is bad. And that's what a lot of food get wasted. Can't stop it. Can't really stop that part of it. And that's where may I request please to mute, please. And that is what requires a change in the mindset. Consumers, they're important. Consumerism, we should not get into too much. You have, I mean, in Thali, so much of food, it goes waste. Why? You have, for example, why can't is what happens a change in the human behavior? Instead of using the private cars, and that's what people say, I want to own it. Fair enough, you own it. It gives you a really feeling of ownership, and feeling of ownership is great. I own a world. Now that gives, and everybody really feels that way. But is that owning the only solution? In our society, we have got Ubers, Olas. They don't own any car, but still they are using it. Why don't we go for it? So owning is not the only solution. Go for other parts also. Why only own a car? Why not use public transport? Why not we try to get into, let's suppose, riding by bicycle? We can, and we can reduce the use of the consumption of energy. We can use the climate change, whatever those things are happening. Again, a change of the mindset. But we always feel as an individual, yeah, that is to be done. And that's what education institutions, we need to get into that. Make our students aware. But we can make our students aware only and only when we are convinced as a teacher. Am I convinced? I'm using so much. For example, it's so nice really to be a part of the webinar and say, look here, do this. Am I doing it? I don't think. For example, World Environment Day. We celebrate one day. Whole environment, all issues. We forget after 364 days, all 364 days, we did the opposite of what we have suggested. And that is where our dilemma is. As a society, therefore, as mentioned, as an individual, yeah, we can make a beginning, I'm sure. Only one person can make a difference. Sure, let's say, because when you start doing it, there are people who will start really being a part of you. It is only a question of the initiative which is required. Secondly, the whole corporates. Dr. Kolhei has suggested, Dr. Swati suggested solutions. There are agriculture and forestry industry. They can come out with it. A lot of solutions which are there. Likewise, Dr. Kolhei came out with energy solutions, not only for MSMEs, small and medium enterprises, but also big enterprises. Even for individual homes, you can use it. Why not institutions, they can use it. So there are solutions available. So when even, and we all, either we are a manager, which means either we are in a job or we are owning a business or else doing something. Ultimately, we are not idle. We are doing something or another. If our mindset is to be, and we are committed that we need really to better the world, I'm sure there will be steps you will be able to take and that will be done. Absolutely no issues from that. As a community also, same thing is there. In and around, I'm sure COVID has provided us this opportunity. Many of the people that really went to do that, which we say they call CSR. Of course, not only the corporate social responsibility, it has to be the individual social responsibility also. You have to have the individual social responsibility. If you're committed about it, then only you can do it. Otherwise, you can't. And that's why SDGs, having a better living conditions, having a good neighborhood, you need not be having a technical expertise on these ideas. I believe so. You can always request people really to provide a technical support. And there are people, for example, Dr. Kolhei mentioned PhD thesis available freely online. You can use it. Absolutely no issue. And there will be people like him who will be trying to help us out. But are we committed? And that is an issue which is important for us. So I believe that from the cycle of cynicism of that we can't do, we can do, individuals can't do, no, we can do, we can have a network, community of people, those who can do it. Let's make a beginning. And that is what Professor Patra wanted today from this. That we should be aware of the issues, facing the ecosystem. And remember, if it's not that I prosper, others may not. No, if others, I prosper only when others also prosper. And I remember, I don't know whose quote it is, Poverty anywhere in the world is a danger to prosperity everywhere in the world. Even in the farthest corner of the world, there is a poverty. It is a danger to prosperity everywhere in the world. If that be, and that is what I fully believe in that, because a hungry person will always have a lot of issues. Even a single person will create a havoc for the whole world. Can we create a better world? And therefore, this webinar has created an awareness. If we are able to have something about it, if we are able to have something about it, a little commitment or at least awareness, if not a commitment, and talk to people that get into that mode, I'm sure it has served the purpose which Professor Patra and Professor Thakur wanted really to get into that, because that was the whole idea, and the experts, they were trying to come out with these solutions. With this, I thank you very much for the opportunity being provided by Professor Patra and also Thakurji. Priyadarshini, you did a wonderful job. In fact, great thing. So nice of you. And experts, you really provided a very technical support in terms of the expertise, which was very, very crucial. Because I, being a social scientist, looked from a very different point of view of managerial applications, the business models, which are important for us. And I know nothing about the technology. I know nothing about anything. I only understand business mein kya chahiye, what is required by business, kya bikega, what is being sold. If what is being sold, and that is what is important. If that is there, I think our purpose is done. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Thakurji and Priyadarshini, I think you take over. You can invite Mas Thakurji. So, yeah, sure. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Professor Dr. Ratan Sharma, sir, for the wonderful moderation, commendable moderation. And you have aptly summarized the essence of today's webinar with the question, can we have a better world? So with this, we have come towards the end of today's international webinar. So I now request the organizer, Mr. CMA Manas Kumar Thakur, to address the vote of thanks for today's program. So over to you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Priyadarshini. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to everyone. It gives me an immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks in the eventful international conference. In general, vote of thanks means end of the program or conference. But I believe, don't make it full stop. Rather, make it comma. And it will be the opening idea for the next program. Environment is not asking us to conserve her for herself, but for our future generation, it is very much essential. Education and awareness is the continuous process, and we are in the ideal path. I would like to thank our chief guest, Dr. Sujata Bakshi Banerjee, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Murshidabad University, who honored this program with her inspirational thoughts. As my hometown is Murshidabad, I feel proud always. I would like to thank our expert panelist, Dr. Mohan Lal Kolhei from Norway. His elaborate discussion, photovoltaic technology and ecological sustainability. Dr. Swati Nandi Chakraborty from India. Detailed discussion about waterland and ecosystem analysis. For their deliberation, program reached an unique level. I would like to thank another key personality, Dr. Ratan Sharma, who made the program charming as well as object-oriented. I would like to thank our co-partner, Murshidabad University, mainly our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Sujata Bakshi Banerjee, Ramnagar College, Medinipur, Dr. Ananta Mohan Mishra, Karshiang College, Darjeeling, Dr. Shomir Ball, Gaur Mohan College, Bardhaman, Dr. Basanto Kamrui, for their esteemed cooperation. I would like to thank Dr. R.K. Patra, key initiator, delegates, participants, whole officials of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan and Kolkata Cost and Management Society for their dedication. I am sure the program obviously is successful, and we will hold this sorts of program continuous basis with the support of you people all. Thanks to all. Thanking you.
Thank you, Mr. Manas Kumar, sir, for the vote of thanks. And now I would like to announce the end of today's webinar by playing the national anthem. So I request all the participants to please stand up in honor of the national anthem.
पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Thank you once again for being a part of the program. We appreciate your presence and for making it a grand success. And thank you once again.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Ratan, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. So nice, Dr. Patra, Dr. Thakur, Dr. Kolhay, Swati, Priyadarshini. Thank you. Thanks to all. These were lovely, good questions, great questions were being asked. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.